Well, unfortunately, it's not clickbait. It just didn't turn out like I wanted it to. But that won't keep it from working. So y'all, check out the video. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Wrenching All Day. Today is one that I've been ready to do for a long time, but I'm kind of a little bit dreading it a little bit too, and that's building our Hotside. We're doing this all out of 304 stainless. But before we get into this, if y'all would, please take a second and subscribe. It really helps me grow the channel. I'm trying to grow this thing, and I cannot do it without your help. But get back into the video. Like I said, we have all 304 stainless here. We have, this is 2.5 inch to run our, that's what our main piping is going to be going to our turbo. And I have, just kind of go over what we got. I think this is a Vibrant Performance. This is a double slip joint here. It just to allow for a little expansion on the hot side, you know. I only got one. I'm just gonna put it on the driver's side bank. That is gonna be the bank with the longest piping, because our turbo, as you can see, is mounted right here. This is the turbo flange I'm going with. This is a T6 divided flange. It's 4 inch piping. It has this relief cut in it right here for the 4 inch piping to go in, and I haven't really test fit it yet. Fits really good, and it's also got this removable piece here. It's these two hex head bolts. You remove these two hex head bolts, and this piece comes off. And I think what I'm gonna do with this, I think it's primarily for mounting the turbo, but that turbo weighs like 47 pounds, and I didn't really want to mount it off just this. So I did do one of the oil drain style turbo mounts. So I think I'm going to run this over to my downpipe to kind of support all that stuff, you know, because the way the downpipe's got to run through the K-member and all, there's not going to be any way to brace it until it gets kind of closer to the transmission. So I think I'm just going to make this a downpipe mount. You know, I know it'll all be tied together, and there'll be a lot of, you know, movement when it gets hot and cold and this, that, and that, but I think it'll be fine. And like I said, we've just got some 2.5 inch stainless. I got this from Summit Racing. This is off eBay. This is 4 inch, and this is just a 2.5 inch J-bend. I got this from Summit Racing also. I plan to use this part right here, kind of cut it right here and shorten this, you know, kind of keep it as it is, but shorten it together and make 2 to 1 for my adapter to go to 4 inch. I'm hoping it works out. I really don't know. It's working out in my mind how it's gonna work, but I don't really know. I think I'm gonna have to oval this 4 inch and make it fit around this. And like I said, I'm hoping it works. I've never really worked with stainless. I know it's a lot harder to work with than just aluminized exhaust piping that I've messed with in the past. We're gonna give it our best shot. And I got some 2 inch laying around here somewhere for this. This is our VS Racing 50 millimeter, I think it's Gen 3 piston style wastegate. And that should be plenty for what we're gonna do for this combo. I think a 50 millimeter wastegate will suppress 780 horsepower to 800 horsepower, and that should be well within what we need, you know, as far as horsepower suppression. If it doesn't work, we'll add another 50 millimeter somewhere in the system. But I think if we prioritize this thing, we'll be just fine. All right, so obviously right here is where we got to go to. And we've got to go, never mind my hood prop right here. We've got to go from here to there, and from here to there. The big problem when going from here to there is this has got to be cut and rotated due to the fact that my 4 inch downpipe has got to go through here. And to be able to do that, this needs to be rotated. It's just gonna make it that much easier on us. So what we're gonna do first, we're gonna yank this passenger side header off, and I'm gonna get it cut, rotated, and tacked in, and that's where it's gonna be our starting point. After that, we'll start fitting pipe and run it over to the turbo, and the last thing we do is we'll be installing our wastegate. And you know, we kind of got to wait till everything's built before we do that. That way we can see where it needs to be to prioritize it the best, and you know, everything that goes along with that. So we're gonna get that header yanked off. We'll get it cut, rotated, and we'll go from there. So I know I mentioned this later in the video about this underestimating this whole bending this stainless stuff. Man, it is tough. Like, you can beat on it all you want to, and it's gonna move which way it wants to, how it wants to. If you want it to oval, it's probably gonna turn into a square. I mean, it's rough stuff to work with. But we did end up getting it done and got a decent fit up. You know, you got to have, from what I learned doing this, you got to have tight fit up to TIG weld. It ain't like a MIG welder. You can't just blast metal in there. And so we did get it good enough to TIG weld it together, you know, and it ended up looking pretty good. I go over it later in the video about how I didn't have good fit up at one area, and I did cut these little, if you look where I made the Y, I cut those a little bit short. If I'd have just cut them a ½ inch longer, I think it'd have been fine. And here I am trying to back purge this stuff, and like I said, it kind of worked out on this piece, but that was about the only one it worked out on. If you catch it right there just a second ago, my tinfoil falls out, and then you got to wait and pretty much let the whole thing re-purge, because it just starts pulling in all those little things that the TIG welds don't like from the atmosphere and all, and they just don't do good together. And you get what I'm saying. They just don't like it. They don't like one another. All right, so let me get y'all caught up on everything, what I've done so far. Kind of failed at setting the camera up and doing the whole time-lapse thing, but I can at least go over what we've done so far. Let me show y'all. So, starting on the driver's side, we've got a few pie cuts here, going to a 90, going just zipping right over. Had to put a little 8-inch pulp piece in right here. We have our double slip joint up to our 2.5 to 4-inch merge. And I did go ahead and weld all this out. Let me fumble around. Could have been a lot better, but also could have been a lot worse. You can tell right there in between that Y, I had really good fit up, and you can tell the weld went in a lot better than, said weld right there. But I'm still happy with it. This is my first time welding stainless piping and trying to do this. So right here's the bottom side. This is the worst fit up we've had so far, and it's pretty rough, but I couldn't do anything about it because of how this was so egg shaped. I mean, I guess I could have tried to squeeze this. I really didn't think about it, honestly, until now. I was thinking that if I tried to squeeze this, it was going to mess this fitment up, so I'll just suffer through this one. And that's what I'm going to have to do. I don't think I'm going to break that back off and try to squeeze it and make it, a little bit better fit up. But so far she's looking pretty good. Like I said, this fit up right here was really nice, and you can definitely tell. But around through there, I just had to go over it once or twice, and you can tell it's got the nice pretty colors, but it's got a bunch of colors, and you don't want that many colors. But let's see, all that turned out pretty good. That welding, never welded that real, that's like 1/2 inch, I think, to that little thin piping. That was different. Kind of like MIG welding, you just focus on the thick stuff instead of the thin stuff. But now the fun begins. Because what we have to do is get from, let me get y'all an angle, get from here to here. And we have no wiggle. Here, we had all kind of movements, you know, the turbo would move on the mount, I could swivel it where I have the V-band loose right here on the turbine housing. And yeah, we had a little bit of movement. Here, it's gonna be none. We're just gonna have to, you know, we're gonna have to make it work. But that's where we're at. I will set the camera up on this last one just so we can we can suffer through it together, you know. But like I said, I hope it goes good. I hope I can get it done today. I mean, it's already, I think it's 6 o'clock in the evening. I don't know if I'll get it done today, but we're dang sure gonna try. So y'all just hang with me. So this is the point that I realized that I've pretty much failed at this project. And by fail, I don't mean that it won't work. It just, it's not like I want it to be. It's nothing like I want it to be. Let me show y'all. Let me just show y'all. And maybe you'll understand, you know, I just wanted this to be a super nice, super, like, yeah, super nice exhaust. And it's nice-ish, but at the same time, it's not nice, you know, if that makes any sense. Let me just show y'all. So let's start here at the driver's side. We did some pie cuts right here, and they don't look bad, but at the same time, they're really big pie cuts. And they just don't, they're not real nice and flowy, if that makes sense. We'll come over here, we got our double slip joint, and then it just goes right up. Well, it don't really go right up. You know, we have some more pie cuts here going up into our merge that we made previously. And here's kind of where it all went south. It's right here, come out of this driver's side or passenger side bank. We did a pie cut. Then we just got this straight piece and it kind of just dog legs right here. That's what I do not like, is this right here. These pie cuts are just massive. And it's because of the radius I had to do. I had to make it super short here, super long here. And I mean, hindsight, you could have done multiple pie cuts, you know, with less of an angle, or with the same angle but just shorter, and just you know what I'm trying to say. It would have looked a little bit better, but at the same time it still would have been, you know, this is dang not a 180-degree turn, but it's not far from it. It's probably 100 and, I don't know, 140 or something. And this, if you look, there's a lot of high-low right here because of the angle of the pie cuts. Once you cut, you know, pipe at such a sharp angle, it becomes more of an oval than it does a circle. And that's just kind of where we're at with it. I'm going to continue on and we're going to make it work, but this is definitely something that's going to get redone this winter, you know, if not sooner. Just, it's going to get redone as soon as I can redo it, you know. The good thing about it is I can reuse the expensive stuff like the double slip joint, the turbo flange, the V-bands on the headers, all that can be reused. And speaking of V-bands, I'm probably going to put a few more in the system. That way I can, you know, it'll just make it a little bit easier to take apart. It's not bad right now, but it's also not good. This is one of those things you kind of got to either, you know, sit down and really think this thing out, or you've got to, you know, have experience doing this stuff as I'm learning, because it just don't, it's one of those things that it don't really just fall together, you know what I mean? I mean, I guess sometimes it does, depending on how talented you are, but it didn't just fall together for me. And it's not like it's a super simple, just coming out of my headers doing a 90 up to the turbo. I had to jump into this thing, you know, doing 1,000 pie cuts and super crazy radiuses and doing my own 2-to-1 collector and all that, instead of just, you know, picking the easy route. I just went straight to the hard route. But the good thing about that is typically you usually learn a lot, and I did on this. I learned a lot. Learned a lot. I'd never back purged ever to begin with, and I learned that you do not want to use a super heavy duty hydraulic hose to try to back purge with, just because it's what you got laying around. You know, the tinfoil works, but when you, like I said, you're literally using a old hydraulic hose to back purge with,
once you spin it, it rips the tinfoil, and then the Venturi effect of the argon or nitrogen, whatever you use in the back purge, going through your exhaust will pull oxygen in, your atmospheric air in, as a Venturi effect when the tinfoil rips. Then you get, you pretty much get the no back purge effect. So a lot of this was back purged, and it didn't turn out looking like it was back purged. So a lot of it just got welded. Just to be honest with y'all, it just got welded. But the next one, I will take the time and I'll either order the silicone stuff, I'll order me some aluminum stock, and we'll make back purge plugs on the lathe. Why I didn't do that this time? Well, I'm kind of out of time and out of budget. And this is, really and honestly, this is a small piece of the pie, this exhaust kit. I really beat myself up over this, and I'm tired of doing so. I'm at the point, just like Freiberger says, I don't want it to be right, I just want it to be running. That's where I'm at with this. So y'all just, y'all hang with me, and we'll finish this stuff up, and I'll show you the finished product. And I don't know how it's gonna be, but I promise you I'll show you a finished product.
Well, here it is. It's all finished up, and we've kind of done went over this one time, but one thing I will add is I did get the downpipe done, and that whole snaking it through the K-member thing, that did not work. It didn't even remotely work. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking it would. I shoved a piece of 4-inch pipe through there, thinking, if I'd done some pie cuts, it would work. But I was bad off. And if you look at the wastegate, I think it's prioritized pretty good. I think this turbo kit will service just fine for now. It actually looks decent from this view. And like I said, I think it'll be just fine for now until we can get, scrounge up the change to do another one, that is. So, I'm glad to say, that's one more thing off the list. We finally got this turbo kit done. It's not the prettiest by any means, but it will get exhaust gases to the turbo and away from the turbo. And I mean, that's all I'm asking it to do. Like I said earlier, I'll definitely be redoing it in the future, just to mainly just strengthen my welding skills. Try back purging it, and just try doing it correctly. You know what I'm saying? I will try to invest in a drop saw maybe to do all these pie cuts with, because my abrasive chop saw, it works, but there's a lot of cleanup involved afterwards. Really, you wear sanding belts out, sanding disc out, flapper disc, all that stuff. I just think having a drop saw would just make everything 100% easier and better. And the easier it is to do it, the more you're gonna focus on perfecting, each weld, and just, you get what I'm saying. Like, you're more prone to make things be better whenever you have good equipment to do stuff with, if that makes any sense at all. But like I said, this is a big thing done. We now all we're down to is interior, fuel system plumbing, wiring, and a bunch of little knick-knack stuff that's going to really eat us up here and there. But we've got about a month and a half, to get this thing done, and hopefully make it to the Rides by the River car show. And Harley, I think it is, Harley, Cartersville area, Georgia, that is. And that's my main goal of this thing, and just to be able to get it on the road and cruise it. I'm hoping, I'm not going to mess with trying to get the air conditioner going and charged up right now. The temperature's falling off, so I'm not really too concerned about getting that going. We're just going to keep on chugging along, kind of do the bare minimum from here on out. I was pretty motivated. I was up here when we started this project. Now I'm kind of, right here. Like, I'm wanting to get it done, and we can come back and, revisit some things that aren't 100%, but the main, we got to get the bones right, but everything on the outside, we can come back and revisit that, at a later date. So that's kind of where we're at. And I guess I'll just go ahead and end it off here. I appreciate y'all watching. And don't forget, stay wrenching. Have a good one.